Hello everyone and welcome to the first episode for Pillars of Eternity. This game is going to look familiar to those of you who have perhaps played games like Baldur's Gate, Icewind Dale, Planescape Torment, all those old Infinity Engine games, because this game is made by some of the same people who made those. This is made by the company Obsidian, and I am really looking forward to diving into this classic role-playing game. Now, this first episode is going to be devoted to character creation because it is kind of involved, as the older games were. So if character creation is not something that you are interested in, then please go to episode 2, where the gameplay will actually start. Before we jump into new game though, I also wanted to let you know that there are a lot of options that you can tweak to change the game, mostly combat-oriented stuff, to the way that you want it to be. So I highly suggest you go into the options menu first before you dive in and kind of just check or uncheck things that you want or do not want. Also, what's pretty cool, you can check developer commentary. So randomly throughout the game, developer commentary audio will play. I'm not going to check that for a Let's Play series, because not everybody's going to want to hear that. But probably in my own time, I'm going to play another game and definitely check out developer commentary. I think that's a really cool option. Also, another cool option, just totally crazy, big head mode. Big head mode gives characters heads that are ludicrously disproportionate to their bodies. Thanks, Josh. Like, what? That's just pretty funny. That's pretty funny, because this is a serious game. And then you got big head mode, which we'll probably look at some point. But anyway, options are there. I suggest you look through them before you start your own game. For difficulty, we're going to do normal. Normal requires strategy and efficiency, but forgives a few mistakes in combat because this is a Let's Play series, and I want it to go smoothly. I don't want to get hung up on any kind of boss fights, because no one wants to watch somebody try to, overcome the same challenge over and over again unless you are playing a game like Dark Souls or Bloodborne. But for those of you out there who want a very difficult game, you can choose Path of the Damned. So enemies receive a bonus to most stats, and encounters have many more enemies. And this option cannot be changed in-game, unlike the other options can be. So if you want to be dedicated to being a full masochist, you can do Path of the Damned, and why not throw a Trial of Iron, which gives you only one save file that is deleted if the player character is killed. That's right. And heck, if that's not even enough for you, you can also enable Expert Mode, which will disable a number of the helper features in the game. Helper features such as a graphic that will show you the AoE or the cone of your spells so that you do not hit your own allies in spells that offer friendly fire. Things like that. So if you want to play that way, those modes are in here for you. Now if I was playing by myself, I'd probably play on hard and enable Expert down the line after I got a handle of combat. That's what I would probably do. But again, for the Let's Play series, I'm going to do normal. Hello, Obsidian. The ways in which your character interacts with people and dialogues, even more subtle ones, will tend to go... Okay.
5 wagons grope blindly for the path on a starless night, their master glancing ever upward to the skies for assurance that he is on the right course. A dim lantern, his only protection against the encroaching darkness. But the skies bring no comfort, shining no light, betraying no hint of what they know. The caravan carries travelers bound for the frontier hamlet of Gilded Vale, you among them, where a local lord has offered land and wealth to settlers from abroad looking for a fresh start. You have taken suddenly ill, sweating and shivering, and one of the other travelers signals for the caravan master to stop on your behalf. He pulls up just in time to avoid plowing into the trunk of a fallen tree that bars the way ahead. You will go no further tonight.
Setting up the story. Or the situation. Okay, done. Alright, character creation, where this entire episode is going to take place. So, first option, male or female? You choose. I'm going to choose male. I'm not going to read through all of the flavor text over here, but if you wish to pause the game at any time, or pause the video, feel free to do that and read. So then we're going to hit next and jump into the races, which we have human. And you're going to see that every single race has bonuses to different stats. We'll get into the stats later. I've only read a little bit about them, and they seem pretty cool. This is not, by the way, this is not based on any kind of Dungeons and Dragons rule sets like the previous Baldur games and Baldur's Gate games and Infinity Engine games are. This is a whole new world, a whole new fighting style, whole new stats, everything. So I'm gonna have to get used to those. So yeah, we got the basic human. We have an Amaua, which reminds me straight up of the Avatar movie. The what were they called? I don't remember. The blue people. Can't remember what they're called. Minus the tail, because they did have tails. But yeah, like the blue face. Anyway, so this is apparently an aquatic race. Who gets might +2. We got your dwarf, dwarfy dwarf. We got the elves, elfy elf. Orlin, which is a halfling type creature, which has less might but more perception. So I guess maybe roguish is what they would be geared for. And then a godlike, which there are multiple godlikes. And I already know the character that I'm going to play, but I will dive in through all these. Alright, so each different race has a sub-race, which is going to give you different looks, mostly when it comes to humans, and a different background. I'm not sure if the background is going to come into play during the game through like role-playing means. People will react to you differently. But as far as the humans, at least, each one of these sub-races gives you the same bonus here, this fighting spirit, where once per encounter, 5 seconds after being reduced below 50% endurance, folk temporarily gain bonuses to accuracy and damage. And they all get that. Again, I think this just matters to see how people react to you. Then we have them, and they have a couple sub-races. I think, is this the same? No, their sub-races are actually different. So the coastal gain bonuses to defend against prone and stun effects. The island gain an additional weapon set in the game. Okay. I'm pretty sure in combat you can switch between weapon sets, and I don't think you can go into your inventory and pull out like a new weapon. So having weapon sets, multiple weapon sets, I guess would be good, so that you can react to whatever situation there is. Dwarf, you have Mountain Dwarf, which gives you Hail and Hardy. Mountain Dwarves have a bonus to defend against poison and disease attacks. And then the Boreal Dwarves gain +15 accuracy against any creature of the wilder or primordial types. Interesting. Okay. We got the Elves. Are you going to have Wood Elf? Against any enemy that is more than 4 meters away, Wood Elves gain bonus to accuracy, deflection, and reflex. So there's your archer class, I guess. And then the Pale Elf. Drow. All Pale Elves have increased burn and freeze damage reductions. Okay. That's kind of cool. If you want to make your Dritz Do Erden, that's probably as close as you're going to get. Orlins, I don't know what their sub-races are. I didn't look at this. Hearth. Minor threat. When attacking any target that is also being targeted by a teammate, Hearth Orlins converts some of their hits into crits. Oh. Okay, yeah, that's further their roguish style. Whoa. Oh, I like that hair. That hair, though. Defiant Resolve. After being subjected to a will attack, Wild Orlins temporarily gain a bonus to all defenses, but specifically only will attacks. Different attacks target different defenses. Will is one of those defenses. And then the Godlike, which I think looks kind of cool. So the Godlike are blessed by the gods. And the Godlike, what's kind of cool about them is that you get to choose between 4 different ones that each have different bonuses. So the Death one here, when a Death Godlike attacks an enemy with 25% or less endurance, their damage is increased. So when people are close to death, they kill them faster. Fire Godlikes, which I think I'm going to be playing as. I think. I want to play a Godlike. I'm still not sure which one I want to play, but I think it's Fire. Battle Forged. When it reduced below 50% endurance, Fire Godlike glow like metal in a forge, gaining damage reduction and doing a small amount of fire damage to any creature who hits them in melee. And they look pretty cool. The Moon Godlight is also pretty cool. Every encounter when they are reduced below these percentages, they generate waves of healing moonlight that restore endurance to them and their allies. So they're just burst healing as they're falling in combat, which I think is pretty cool. And they also have pretty cool head styles. And then Nature grants a bonus to Might, Constitution, and Dexterity when endurance is below 50%. And they also look pretty cool. The one that I was wanting to go is between Fire and Moon. I think I'm gonna go with Fire. But we'll keep going here. But after you click which godlike you want, then you choose what race or what body type you want, which of these races have been blessed by the gods. So you can still make them small, big, or whatever. You can make them Elfie, Orlin, E. I'm probably going to go with human, though. Kind of reminds me of a tiefling. Although, a tiefling with their head on fire. So I'm going to select this. I think we'll go with that. And then you go into the classes. There's a lot of classes, and they're all pretty cool. So we'll start here with the Barbarian. Barbarian, here's the flavor text again. If you want to read any of this, feel free to pause the video. I'm just going to go over the abilities. So, Carnage. When Barbarians hit with melee attacks, they automatically make reduced damage attacks against all other enemies with a short distance of the target. So they have Cleave built into them at all times in melee. They just cleave, which is awesome. And this is going to tell you their starting stats. They have very high endurance, very high health. I guess we'll just cover that right now. Endurance is the hit points you have in combat. Health is your hit points total. So, yeah, it doesn't really make sense, right? So, endurance, 48 plus 16 per level. So, in combat, at level 1, this person's going to have 48 hit points. When 48 hit points are gone, this person falls prone and is knocked out. But their actual health pool is going to be like 150. So 48 of those hit points are going to be taken away from their health pool, but after combat, their endurance refreshes. Their health doesn't, from what I've seen so far. So this allows you to fall multiple times between resting and camping. It's a pretty cool feature, and I really like it. So their endurance and health is really high, accuracy is average, but their deflection is low, so they're going to get hit quite often, at least at the beginning. Let's also click next. You can also add these abilities here. I think you get one. Yeah, you get one. So Frenzy once per encounter, casting time of an average. You gain some might, constitution. You gain 33% increased attack speed. But then you're also easier to hit, and your health and endurance are concealed. So you don't even know how much health you have left in the fight, which I think is kind of cool because they're berserking. They don't even care how much health they have. Or you can do the Barbaric Yell, which you can do this twice per encounter. And the area of effect is a 5-meter radius from caster. Hits the foes only, and they'll be frightened for 12 seconds if they fail, or if you get above their will defenses. So that's pretty cool. We're also going to be going over stats here in a moment. That's after we pick our class, I believe. Then we got a Cypher, who is kind of a spellcaster. Again, you can read the background if you wish. Starting abilities, power. Cyphers can directly target allies and enemies with powerful soul-focused effects. These powers cost focus, so that's their kind of like their mana pool, which Cyphers build through the use of their Soul Whip. Now, I've not actually played any of this, so I don't know what the Soul Whip is, but the stats, they have very low health and endurance, average accuracy, high deflection, so I guess you could put them in melee, but they just can't take a hit that much. But what's pretty cool is that they have powers, multiple levels. You can only start with level 1 powers, and some of their powers seem pretty cool. Like Soul Shock. So you briefly transform the outer shell of an allied target soul into energy, releasing it as an electrical burst around them. So you're casting an AoE around your allied target, which I think is kind of cool. So it requires 10 focus, which I don't know how fast you build focus up as a Cypher. But then it gives you the effects down here. We have Whispers of Treason. Let's see. Imparts a bedeviling secret to an enemy that causes an allegiance to bend, charming them for a duration. 7-meter range, which is quite large. It has a interrupt. So interrupts can interrupt things like casting. So if you see an enemy spellcaster start casting, there is casting animation and time. So you can maybe cast Whispers of Treason and at least interrupt them. And then maybe even charm them for 10 seconds. And you get plus 10 accuracy to this attack. So they have some cool starting abilities that all revolve around this focus. I'm not going to be playing one, at least not at the start. We may get one later, because they do sound interesting. But that's what they have. We got your fighter, your typical fighter, but the typical fighter has constant recovery, so fighters continually regenerate endurance at a modest rate during combat. Which that's awesome, because they're going to be frontline fighters, and they were just regenerating endurance at all times. Here's their starting stats, which are pretty good. And then you can get knockdown, which you put a target prone. Or this barrage, which is going to erase your accuracy for a short amount of time, hopefully leading to more hits. And that's the starting abilities you can do with the fighter. So that's pretty cool. Paladin is kind of unique in that they give you... Where do they talk about it? Let's see. Faith and Conviction. Oh, here we go, yeah. Paladins have an inherent bonus to all of their defenses. Over the course of the game, the value of this bonus may shift based on the reputations the paladin gains relative to their behaviors that are preferred by his or her order. So playing as a paladin and or a priest, because they have something very similar, is going to focus or force you to kind of roleplay your character, or at least roleplay the order that you choose. Here's our starting stats. So after that, you choose an order. Bleak Walkers, you can read the background here, but these are basically your bad guys. Bad paladins. Their favorite dispositions, they want to be cruel and aggressive. They do not want to be benevolent and diplomatic. So if you choose this race, in any kind of situation where you're talking with somebody, you would always want to pick the more cruel or aggressive routes, and I imagine that is going to, over time, upgrade your defenses. And if you then go against your dispositions, you're going to lower your defenses, so you're going to only harm yourself. So I like the Paladin and Priest class, because they're going to force you to actually roleplay the character that you chose. Kinda. Then we have these Darkosi Paladins, which are passionate and clever. They enjoy life. They do not like to be cruel or stoic. Goldpack Knights are mercenary paladins, basically. They are like your neutral type of paladins. Grey paladins. They prefer to be stoic and rational. They do not want to be passionate or aggressive. Kind Wayfarers are your benevolent and passionate, kind of typical goody two-shoes paladins. They do not like to be deceptive or cruel. And then the Shield Bearers are honest and diplomatic, do not want to be cruel or aggressive. So if I were to play a paladin, I'd probably play as them, because I want to force myself to be diplomatic in situations, because I think that could be kind of fun. Then after you choose your order, you get to choose an ability. Flames of Devotion, which will increase your attack damage for a certain amount of time, twice per combat. Or Lay on Hands, which can heal either you or a allied in range for 34.3 endurance over 5 seconds, which at level 1 seems to be most of everybody's hit points. So it's almost like a full heal that you can do once per encounter, which is kind of powerful. I think that's it, yeah. So there's the Paladin. I just like this mechanic that kind of forces you to play what you choose. Ranger is going to be the class you want if you want an animal companion, because they start with an animal companion. Their stats, they have low endurance, but very high health, so they can fall many times, kind of, between rests, basically. They have very high accuracy and high deflection, so you can put them in melee if you want to. Probably nothing wrong with that. And then you get to choose one starting ability, Wounding Shot, twice per encounter. Target is hobbled. There's a lot of different effects in this game. Hobbled is one of them, and it's kind of important to know if you have a rogue, because a rogue has sneak attacks that apply to almost every single afflicted target, including hobbled. But anyway, Ranger, so Wounding Shot marks prey. The Ranger and their animal companion get a damage bonus against a marked target for 30 seconds. So basically the entire combat. In this game, if combat is lasting more than 30 seconds, it's usually probably not going to be going too well for you and your party. After that, you get to choose your animal companion, and they're all different. Antelope have increased defenses. Bear companion has increased damage reduction. Boar gets enraged when they're below 50% endurance and deal more damage. Lion has a powerful, terrifying roar, so a fear roar. Stag, what does stags do? Activate a melee attack that does damage to all enemies in a small area. So they have a cleave, like they're a berserker. And then a wolf has increased damage, and they can disengage more easily. So choose which companion you want. Oh, then you get to name your animal companion. That's kind of cool. Well, I'm not going to choose a ranger, but that's pretty cool. I do not want to be a... There we go. Wizard, your generic spellcaster. They have mid-range attack that hits a small area for raw damage and can leave targets dazed. And they also get a lot of spells. So that's their special ability, and then they have access to spells. They have very low stats all across the board, but they get to cast spells. Like Archimir's Dazzling Light, or Chill Fog, or Eldritch Aim, Fan of Flames. I'm not going to be choosing a spellcaster, at least in the beginning, but spellcasters are always usually pretty powerful. So yeah, there's your spellcaster. Chanter's kind of unique. Chanters, they can continuously speak chants made up of magical phrases. Phrases produce passive effects and help build a chanter's power. So the way that they work... let's look at their stats here. Low, low, average, and very high. So you pick chants, and during combat they're automatically going to be chanting as well as fighting. So chanting doesn't take away their actions, it just happens automatically. And then as you build chanting stacks, we'll click next, you get to choose evocations. So as you can see here, this evocation requires 3 phrases. So after you chant a phrase 3 times in combat, you then can cast this evocation, which is going to summon a phantom to fight for you and the party. or this, which also requires 3, which will give you an area effect that decreases enemies' damage reduction for 12 seconds. So things like this. So it's a pretty unique class that's going to be buffing you, and then after it buffs you for a certain amount of time, it can then cast these powerful evocations. So that's also pretty cool. I was going to pick a chanter, but not going to pick a chanter. I'm going to be picking a monk because I never ever play monks. So I decided I'm going to play a monk. But anyway, we got a druid which has a shape-shifting ability and also has access to spells. Your shape-shifting ability is kind of like your animal companions, and they all do similar things, I believe. Well, maybe not. The bear is the most tanky because it does have damage reduction. The boar regenerates lost endurance and inflicts damage over time. Okay, no, this is slightly different from the animal companions. The cat naturally fast attacks and can burst into even faster attacks for short periods of time. The stag still has the cleave attack, and the wolf allows you to knock enemies prone. That's kind of cool. So you get to do all these once per encounter, at least at the start of the game, and they are instantaneous casts. And they also gain access to spells, I guess eventually? What did that say? To a variety of offensive and some support-oriented spells. Every 2 levels, they automatically gain additional spell slots. Okay. I see. So yeah, there's your druid class. Then we got the monk. The monk. Transcendent suffering. When monk have no weapons equipped, their unarmed attacks are exceptionally powerful and continue to increase in damage as they gain levels, which is probably something I'm going to be doing. Then they also have this unique mechanic with wounds. As monks are damaged, their pain generates wounds. Wounds can be used to power many of the monk's special abilities. And these are their starting stats that they get, which we'll go over later. So they have generally high stats all across the board. And your initial abilities that you can get are swift strikes, which are going to increase your attack rate for 10 seconds. But it does require you to get a wound. So it seems like you have to get hit to then do your abilities, which is kind of unique. Then Torment's Reach, which is what I'm going to be picking. So, requires 1 wound, you hit the target in front of you, and then it unleashes a cone of damage and a debuff behind that enemy to hit the people behind them, which I think is kind of cool. So, the initial target takes increased damage, and then they get -2 might for 20 seconds, which is going to be a long time. And this attack is versus their reflex, so I think that's pretty cool. But before we move on to that, you got the priest, which is your Healy priest. Their special ability, Holy Radiance, generates a modest amount of endurance for allies around the priest. And then there's these things called Vessels. I'm guessing Vessels is an enemy type in the game, and they'll take burn damage and maybe frightened. So it's kind of like their turn undead that priests get in D&D, basically. And then these become more powerful as their reputation increases, kind of like the paladin. Then they also gain access to spells. Let's see. So then you got to change or pick your priest order, and down here you see their dispositions and disfavored dispositions. So again, it's forcing you to play in a particular play style. And then we can take a look at their... Oh, no, these are the spells they get automatically. Huh. So they just know all spells. Kind of like in D... No, in D&D you choose your spells. Interesting, so they just have a list of spells. Cool. And then you got the rogue, who is going to be able to apply sneak attack damage to anybody who has afflictions, and also sneak attack is applied to the target if they're hit within the first 2 seconds of combat. They have stealth and mechanics, and then low health, low endurance, but very high accuracy, very low deflection. So really, the thing is, sneak attack does it say? Yeah, rogues ranged and melee weapons. So with the very high accuracy and low everything else, I'd want to play them probably as a ranged character most of the time. I don't know. I don't know how effective dual wielding is. Maybe they'll still be pretty good. Your starting abilities here would be Crippling Strike, so you can hobble the targets. So you can hobble them and then apply sneak attack by yourself, so you don't need anybody else to do your sneak attack damage for, or work with to apply sneak attack damage. And then you also have Blinding Strike, which is going to blind them for 10 seconds, which I believe counts as one of the afflictions for sneak attack. Yeah, I think it's almost like any affliction they can then apply sneak attack damage to, which is pretty cool. So, with that said, we're going to choose the monk. We're going to choose Torment's Reach. And then we're going to go through these stats. It's going to apply a star next to the stat that they believe is the most important for the monk class. Might. Might represents the character's physical and spiritual strength, brute force, as well as their ability to channel powerful magic. During interactions, it can be useful for intimidating displays and acts of brute force. In combat, it contributes to both damage and healing, as well as the fortitude defense. So what's kind of cool about this is that might is not a stat you would think should be taken as a caster in most games. Might adds to your spell damage. It adds to your spell damage, it adds to your healing if you're a priest or have healing abilities, and adds to physical and I believe range damage too. And each stat that we put in here is going to give us 3% of damage. It's not like D&D where every 2 stats gives you a significant boost. It's just 3 every time. And therefore, the point buy system here, as you can see, it doesn't get higher the higher you get. You can go up to a max of 18. What that means is, like in traditional D&D, when you buy a point, the higher you get, the more points it takes. But not in this, because it's a flat increase every single level, which I think is kind of cool. Constitution, combination of characters' overall health and stamina. Although it is not used much in interactions, it is sometimes checked to withstand pain or endure a physical taxing ordeal. In combat, it affects maximum health and endurance and contributes to the fortitude defense. Highly recommended for monk. And again, you can see our increases are going to be the same each time we level up. And we can also go down if you want to. Dexterity is an abstraction of characters' hand-eye coordination, balance, and overall grace. In interactions, it can be used for sleight of hand and fast reactions. In combat, it affects the character's action speed with all attacks, spells, and abilities, and contributes to the reflex defense. So we're getting +1 because we are godlike, as you can see right there. And I don't know, I think that would be pretty important. I mean, action speed, you want to have fast attacks as a monk. I guess that's what that... Yeah. Action speed with attack, spells, and abilities. So yeah, that does seem pretty good. Perception. Let's see. It can be used to catch someone in a lie and make an observant comment about their appearance or to notice something happening in the background. In combat, it contributes to the deflection and reflex defenses, and it grants a bonus to interrupt. Right. So interrupt is in this game. Interrupt goes against a person's concentration, I think, which is increased with resolve. So every single attack you have, from what I understand, I don't know the combat that well, but from the little I understand, can apply an interrupt. So if there's a spellcaster casting a spell and your interrupt is higher than their concentration, then you can interrupt their stuff, their spellcasting, and make them start over again. So that's kind of unique, or kind of cool. Let's see. Intellect. Intellect represents a character's logic and reasoning capabilities. In interactions, it can be useful for deductions, sudden realizations, and problem solving. In combat, it contributes to the will defense and influences durations and area of effect for all abilities and talents, which is another cool thing in this game. So you wouldn't think casters would need might, but they do if you want them to have increased damage. You wouldn't think warriors would need intellect, but warriors have area of effect abilities, like the barbarian I think had that war cry. Well, you can increase the area of effect for the war cry if you increase their intelligence as well as the duration of their fear effects. So intelligence can be important, I think, to almost every single character who has any kind of disabling abilities that have a timer and that have a AoE. So intelligence is awesome. I like that this game forces you, or makes everything kind of needed by every single class. Just some things are more important than others, but still intellect is pretty cool. Resolve. In combat, it helps characters maintain concentration and contributes to the will and deflection defenses. And then we get +1 because of Adir? What? Not sure what the Adir is. Let's see. +3 concentration, +1 deflection, +2 will. So we have 15 points. Probably going to put some in Constitution. Going to put some in Dexterity. Now, we do have a cone attack that would benefit from this intellect. Let's put one in there. We're going to put some in damage. Oh, having a monk that can interrupt with fast attacks would be pretty cool too. Like the thing, I want all these stats. I really do. I gotta think what my goal is with the monk. So because of the godlike, when we were below 50% health, we're going to have increased damage reduction, I believe. And then we can also damage enemies in melee if they hit us. Huh. 2 more points. Ah, gosh. This also does add to deflection, which will help us in melee. Gives us 1 deflection, but it's mostly for interrupt and reflex. I just like the idea of getting in someone's face and having a high interrupt chance and just punching them in the face repeatedly and then like, I can't cast, I can't cast. But then again, I also like the idea of having a high hit points and high damage block. Oh, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's kind of actually hard to make a character. But I'm going to give most of the love to the stats that the game makers recommend. But still a little love to everything else too. I'm not sure if we can change these stats later in the game. I don't know. I'm assuming we can. Through items or just leveling up. Oh, I see. So it was giving me +1 resolve because I haven't chosen my culture yet. I haven't even looked into any of this stuff yet. Wow. The Aether Empire is currently the largest and most powerful force in this part of the world. It is centered around the equator and tropical climate. Oh boy, so this gives us +1 resolve. This will give us +1 dexterity. And also changes our starting equipment, it looks like? Huh. +1 resolve. +1 intellect. Constitution. Might. Perception. Cracked southern expanse of polar ice, the white that wins is home to pale elves and small colonies of daring explorers, outcasts, and adventurers. While virtually no plant life grows in the white, it is home to many hardy species of dangerous animals that forage from the sea or prey upon others to survive. Huh. I mean, this would add to our chance to interrupt people. So if we choose that, if we go back into the stats, then yeah, there it is. We'd have a 13 perception, but then our resolve went down by 1. Which is okay. Our will defense is going to be slightly low, though. I think I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. Yeah. Sure. We'll go with the white that wins. Background. Oh. Okay. Lore. Lore represents a character's accumulated miscellaneous knowledge and trivia, often of occult and esoteric topics. Outside of the conversations and scripted interactions, lore is used to activate scrolls. Higher lore values allow the character to use higher level scrolls. That's lore. And then survival allows characters to make better use of the food and potion items that they find. The higher the character's survival skill, the longer the duration of such items. Survival can also be used in conversations and scripted interactions that involve wilderness challenges. Athletics. Venturing is tiring work. All that can take its toll. The athletic skill counters the effects of accrued fatigue. Accrued fatigue. So I guess after a long time of venturing, you will get fatigued in this game. Allowing characters to go farther and fight longer before they suffer penalties. In conversations and scripted interactions, athletics can be used for physical feats like climbing, swimming, and jumping. That sounds like something that a monk should probably have. Mechanics is all about traps and locks. The mechanics skill makes it easier to open locks and find and disable traps. Additionally, any character can use the mechanics skill to place traps of their own. Okay. Mystic gives us lore, stealth, and survival. Stealth allows characters of any class to attempt to avoid being seen or heard. It is used automatically whenever the character is in scouting mode. The higher the character's skill, the closer they can get to enemies before being detected. And then lore and mechanics. Stealth and survival. Oh, that's the same thing. Which is a different background. You never quite fit in no matter where you go. Each new town is just a place to rest briefly before moving on to the next. You are more comfortable on the road traveling the world, or you're a hunter. Huh. Let's be a drifter. A drifter, fire, godlike. Sure. Next. Appearance. Alright, so each of the godlikes do have different head shapes. Oh, also something I forgot to mention. Godlikes cannot wear helmets because of the shapes of their heads. They all look pretty cool. I think I'm going to go with this one. Primary. Is this our clothes? This is our clothes. Okay. Yeah, sure, we'll keep it red. So we have no hair, we have no facial hair options, but they are in the game. Guess we're just going to go with that. And then a portrait. That just looks like a tiefling. Ah. I mean, I guess we gotta go with this one, even though, I mean, kind of looks like it, kind of. There are a lot of portraits. You can choose any one, no matter what race or class or gender you are. So if you really wanted to, I mean, we could play as this lady, or that lady, or that lady. This lady, maybe that lady. Oh, the nature female version gets multiple ones. Even 2 fire ones. Oh, it's like Mrs. Claus. Some cool portraits in this game. Anyway, there we go. Our voice.
What is it?
Ooh.
Follow me. Charge!
My eyes are peeled. I've got this.
Silence surrounds me. Yes?
I shall lead us.
Bring them down.
I also like. I think it's pretty cool that you can also choose a female voice if you're a male or vice versa. They just give you an option for all of them.
Steady does it. I'm here. I've got this. Sharp eyes and keen ears.
Or we could just be that silent protagonist that is in, well, a lot of old RPG games. Let's see.
Now I am the leader of the group. Keeping an eye out. Well, follow me. Steady does it.
Yeah? I've got this.
I think Sinister
Keeping an eye out.
goes with a fiery theme we got here.
Yes.
I mean, Feisty could too,
I've
but the
got
voice
this.
just
After
isn't.
them!
My eyes are peeled.
Yeah, the voice just isn't. Like, it's just the tone isn't there.
Yes.
We'll go with Sinister. Oh, wow, I didn't even think about a name through all of this. I mean, I guess Tokshen is my default. Whoops. And that's it. We have successfully created a level 1 monk. Now, later in this game, we can meet NPCs that will fill out our party of a total of 6, or at a tavern, you can go in there and recruit new heroes, just kind of generic ones that you will make on your own, which basically takes you back to this screen, and you make whatever class you want. So I could fill out this party with a fully customized class if I want to. But from what I understand, the NPCs that you can meet in the game are fully fleshed out. They have like different voices, different backgrounds, and are kind of unique. So I'm not really sure yet. It depends on what NPCs we meet, if I'm going to keep them or not. But anyway, that's going to do it for this first episode, everybody. I will see you all in episode 2 when I hit the done button. Take care.